Hi everyone, and welcome to another awesome episode here of the Flying Changes show. I have got Tony Hobden with me. Hi, Tony.
Hi.
Tony's here to tell us all about lots of things, but particularly his company Equidance and how it came to be. And Tony, you've got a very interesting story to tell us of the twists and turns and the things that happened to get you here.
Yeah, absolutely. I haven't always been into equestrianism at all. In fact, I was scared of horses when I was a kid.
So... Oh, okay. And are you still?
No, I've fallen deeply in love with them now.
Oh.
And I know that Kelly's listening over there somewhere. So yeah, really, really love them.
Oh, right. Okay. If she wasn't listening.
No, I love them. I actually do. Yeah, they're just fantastic. I think they're a bit of a drug, aren't they? Once you connect yourself with a horse and you work out what wonderful animals they are, then it's like owning a dog, isn't it? You're either doggy or non-doggy. Well, you're either horsey or non-horsey, I think. And I was definitely horsey, just waiting to be.
Oh, amazing. Cool. Okay, so tell us a little bit about what you do, and then by all means tell us some of your story of how you got to where you are today then.
Cool. Well, some of you may know that I basically run Equidance with Mrs. Equidance, Kelly Jewell. And Equidance is a company that arranges music for freestyle, kind of internationally now, which is great, really good fun. But you kind of get to do all sorts of things within that as well. But we'll talk a bit about that later on. How did I get here? Well, as I said, I wasn't horsey ever. In fact, I wouldn't have gone anywhere near a horse until I met my wife, Kelly Jewell. And it actually goes all the way back to our first date, where I've been down. She was in Cornwall. We met online. Isn't it sweet? Met online. I was in Weston-super-Mare. She was in Cornwall, in Redruth, near Redruth. And I arranged to come down and take her out for a meal. But the first date was actually, I had to go to the yard with her to meet her horse, Special, big grey mare. Now, Special to me, she's 16-1. That to me is a dinosaur. It's huge. I mean, I was just like, never really had any contact with horses up close. So she's in the stable getting a hay net, and Special is trying to push her way out of the door that's slightly open. And so I'm like, Kelly, your horse is trying to get out of the stable. She goes, oh, don't worry, just push her back in on the chest. And I'm like, you got to be able to laugh. So I did. I just pushed her back into the stable, and there I was, a king of horses. I was the horse whisperer immediately. So yeah, that was kind of like the early bit really to my introduction into horses. At the time, I was a record producer, so I still do make the occasional record, even though recording studios are shutting left, right, and centre everywhere these days. But I owned a recording studio for several years, and I sound engineered through my teenage and 20s, and then started producing records through my 30s. So I had a long stint in the music business, but come near the end of that, I was teaching on a degree course, lecturer in music production, which was okay, but it's not very challenging. It was subcontract work, part-time, not very challenging, just interesting, fun to watch people come through the education system, but it wasn't pressing my buttons. And in the meantime, Kelly had been riding, of course, and she rode dressage, which I was starting to take an interest in. And she said to me, they do this to music, you know, and I'd never seen anything. I may have heard about CDJ at some point in time in the Olympics, but not really taken any notice of it or thought about the music production for it. So she took me up to Hartbury to, I think it was the Festival of Dressage at the time, but it was a gala evening, so Grand Prix. So I was really looking forward to watching the Grand Prix anyway. The freestyle occurs, but with music, which was very interesting because I sat there and my jaw just sort of dropped the first horse that came out. And I was like, what is this music? It's like I'm stuck in Woolworths in a lift in 1974. I was not impressed. I thought, does music have to sound like this for horses, or what's going on? At this point, Kelly's tugging my arm saying, shut up, people can hear you. So yeah, that was the first mistake I made. But yeah, so I just thought, my goodness me, so much more could be done with the music. I mean, so I went and found out about it. And then I stalked a couple of Grand Prix riders to get an opportunity to arrange some music. And I didn't know about all the levels, and I didn't know anything about dressage really. I didn't know anything about horses at all. I've had to learn that lexicon rapidly over the last 5-6 years. But yeah, a couple of people agreed to be my guinea pigs for free. And so I arranged some music. And at the time, it was when Game of Thrones was really popular. So I did a Game of Thrones arrangement for a Grand Prix. It did really well. People loved it. And I didn't have to start Equidance as a company. People just started coming to me because, of course, people work with people and talk to people and train people. And all of a sudden, I was in a situation where I was saying to Kelly, look, I'm gonna quit my contract teaching and not go back after the summer vacation. I'm just going to concentrate on this, I think, and see where it goes. And I think anyone else who knows me, I mean, the rest is history. Up until this flipping pandemic, it's been an incredibly successful model. Hopefully we've come across as fresh and funky, doing something a little bit different, putting smiles on people's faces, and also helping to grow the sport, which we're really passionate about doing. So that's kind of the way it's been going up until this point.
Wow, I love that. I just love the way, whenever I talk to anyone who's a great entrepreneur or really good at what they do and really passionate, there's always they're sort of following a path and then they get knocked a certain way and they go, oh, I don't know where I went there, but I did. And then they get knocked another way. And then at some point, it just all sort of comes together and they think, oh, this is why I had to do this, this and this to get to here. And I love it. And that's what that sounds like. And I was absolutely killing myself when you were talking about the type of music that used to be around. I literally sit there going, oh, not Madonna again, please. Please, not this song again. Literally, I mean, I love dressage music, and I've run regional events and things where I've been the one that presses play on the CD, which is a really scary job, by the way. I'm sure you're aware of this.
It's a really outdated flipping medium CDs.
Apart from anything else.
We're lobbying all the venues and everything to go MP3 now because it's stable. I mean,
yes, exactly. Yeah, out of panics there have been when the CD didn't play, or you're sat there with your finger hovering over the play button, waiting for them to wave their hand. They wave it, you hit play,
and nothing happens.
And nothing. It's just the most heart-sinking moment. But
it's the wrong person's music.
Sorry. Oh yeah. Never did that. Luckily, never did that one. But yeah. Had once where it wasn't a continuous track, it was 3 different tracks for the music, and it stopped after the first track and wouldn't continue on. So she stood in the middle of the arena looking at me, and I'm like, well, I don't know. So
there's been some horror stories, absolute horror stories. I mean, only recently, Anna Ross on Dottie, her Grand Prix horse, at Kiso at the International there, and she was singing the music because the CD stopped. So it kept skipping and then it just stopped. And she was like, la, la, da, 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 as she was doing extended across the diagonal. It's absolutely hilarious. But it shouldn't happen, really, because people spend a lot of money getting their horses to competitions and a lot of money on their music sometimes. So really, it's not much to ask for the venues to be reliable with the equipment. But I'm not going to go into that right
now. No, that's not what it was about. But yeah, it did seem to be a lot of, by the end of the day, it was like, if I hear that track again, I'm going to cry. And then obviously this was pre-Equidance because there were a lot of people doing very similar stuff. And then it was quite it was quite obvious when you came along, because I think there was a particular piece of music which you're very well known for, wasn't there, really?
Is that the Muse one?
Yeah.
Everyone loves that. That was at the Nationals, and Anne-Marie Borg-Eppers on Team Penguin, I call them. Fabulous, fabulous horse. This horse, he trots like a show pony from the shoulders. He's like, it's incredible movement, quite different looking. And I was around at hers doing a clinic with her and a few friends. And I asked her, what sort of music do you like? And she goes, well, I love Muse, but of course we can't use Muse for freestyle. And I was like, I love Muse too. Why not? He's got a really powerful movement. We can put some really powerful music to him. And so that we did. And she went through and won the regionals and got through to the nationals, the Winter Nationals at Hartbury with it. And I said to her, are you absolutely sure that you will still want to use Muse in Hartbury International Indoor Arena? And she's like, yeah, it's got us this far. We've had good marks for it. Why not? And so I remember I was filming, because I go up and film all my clients at the Nationals if I can, just to give them something back. And the music came on and everything went quiet, and I've never seen so many jaws drop.
And I love that. I love a disruptor. I love it when something different comes along and it works. It's not so ideal when something different comes along and it doesn't work. But I think it really started to change the landscape of music when these different pieces were heard, when something was a bit newer and fresher or memorable. Yeah. So what's been your favourite piece that you've put together, do you think? Maybe other than the Muse one, but what's been your favourite bit that you've done?
Do you know what? I love them all because I won't let them leave the studio unless I love them too. So I'm very eclectic in my taste of music. I really love everything from Brahms to banging beats. So anything really that works together well and with the horse. But of course, that's a bit of a grey area and very subjective anyway. What works with a horse? Often it's purely down to footfall and actual girth of the sound. So, you know, the bigger track you can use on bigger horses, and some of them lighter, more freely moving can do with something a lot lighter and dancier. But yeah, I don't know. So many. I think the soundtrack ones are the ones that I love the best. There's one that I did for Sadie Smith, and it was Aquaman. It was a Grand Prix, which is always really hard to edit because there are so many changes. And of course, you've got all that faffing piaffe and passage as well, which is the only time you get a 120 tempo into an arrangement, because of course everyone thinks their horse trots 120 beats per minute, but it doesn't. It's 140 to 170, you know. But that piece really came together with these lovely swells. It's a great composer. Aquaman's a really funny film anyway, but it just had these huge crescendos on her lovely extended paces on the canter and on the trot, and plenty of scope for putting in really nice poignant parts for the double pirouette she had in as well. So I like that, because you think about music that's written for film or TV, which also I've done a fair bit of as well, not as much as many of my friends do, but I've done some of that. But music that's written for film or TV has to fit what's going on with the drama. For example, if there's a car chase scene and no music, there'd be very little, if no drama at all. You know, if you've got to bring in that tense, fast kind of music. If there's a very poignant scene where, you know, someone maybe has just lost a loved one and someone gives them a hug, unless those strings come in, you don't well up. If it was just quiet with the talking mics open, it would be like, I'm not getting my cues here for the emotion. So, you know, your hairs don't stand up on end and you don't well up at a point in the film. And believe me, I don't think there are many films I don't cry at. I'm such a blinking softie. But that music really brings the drama to the freestyle. So unless it's, I mean, you can do, even with 80s pop, you know, if someone wants Wham and Madonna, as you say, you can still arrange it in a way that it brings drama and that you rearrange the music so it fits the floor plan really well and it all comes together.
So who are your favourite type of people to work with then, or types of horses, or have you not got a particular one? You know, what is the type of person that you love to work with?
Oh, Cobbs and Connies, all the way. I love riding club. I mean, there's no one. I love working with everyone. I think I fell out with one woman once. It wasn't intentional at all. She was just quite awkward to work with. So I just sort of went, well, I don't think I'm going to be able to help you, but I hope everyone else has had a really positive experience. But I love following the one horse owner riding club, go out, get it, do something different, smile on their face, pat on the back, kick on. They love it. Cobbs and Connies. And do you know what? Some of the best arrangements that I think I've done are with horses that are really expressive, like Frisians, you know, where they've got long manes, or traditional types. You know, so fluffy Cobbs, I love them with fluffy feet. They just really seem to dance along. If you put like a Cobb with long hair to some 1940s like bebop or something, it just puts a smile on your face. So there's that. But then of course you can't not love working with these gorgeous, you know, warm bloods that come in big and black and elegant, because they just ooze style and class and quality, and the music just fits perfectly with them, you know. But there's a music for everyone, and you know what? It's not just about the horse. We say, and we stand by this, that you've got to love your music. So it's not just about what will suit your horse, and we're not just going to tell you what you're going to have, because you've got to love it. Because we believe that if you love your music, you will ride better because you're happier, and we know that. You'll know that from a mindset coach perspective. When you're happier and more confident riding, you tend to ride better. The days you ride bad are the days you're in a bad mood or feeling a bit down. Is that right? Would you agree with that?
Yeah, absolutely, 100%. And the things that I've done with dressage music, so I'm a one horse riding club, low level BD owner, and I've loved my dressage music journey. And my first piece of music was on an Arab cross quarter horse, Monty, and we did it to Dire Straits.
Love Dire Straits.
Walk of Life and some of the other bits and pieces. I think Forever in Blue Jeans was another piece that was in there for the canter, and so it wasn't all them, obviously, but it was just, I loved it. And it was really interesting with him because he loved that bit of music because it was a bit rocky and he had a little bit of an attitude, and he just loved it. And I think then when I went on to my Big Bay Mare, we actually got to the Riding Club Nationals with our music. You have to listen to it a lot. I literally had it on in the car every single place I went so that I knew the music, because it's all very well with dressage to music riding a floor plan, but I don't think I've ever ridden my freestyle the same way twice. Because the arenas ride differently, or there might be a slightly spooky corner you've got to be aware of, or the horse might be different, or that one might be a bit deeper, or a bit
best advice ever. Right. You may have a floor plan in your head, but when you go out and ride it, you ride the music, not your corners, not your markers. Forget them.
So you have to know that music. You have to know when a change is coming, or when a fiddly bit's around, or when you should be, if you're doing the medium, for it to look really, expressive or whatever. And in fact, it was interesting. The other day I was schooling and I just put on a playlist, and in that playlist popped in my two favorite pieces, the one from him and the one from her that got me to the Nationals. And it just made me smile, and it brought back all those lovely memories. And that was on a horse that he doesn't fit any of that music. In fact, we need a new piece of music. So Tony will be in touch soon, because we're going to crack on at elementary with my new boy. And he's a middleweight hunter who is not a dressage horse, but he moves quite nicely. But he's a real, he's a show off, but he's not expressive in his movement. So how would you match, he is a show horse. He goes in and goes, oh, hi, I'm gorgeous, I'm serious, you should know this. Without a doubt, he is a show horse, which is great because that's what we do. But he isn't sort of expressive in his movement. He's a hunter, there's no sort of flicky toes or anything there. How do you match that kind of thing up?
Well, once if you find something that actually fits really well, anyway, tempo wise, and of course there are minor adjustments you can make with that anyway in the with the equipment, without altering the quality too much, which you don't want to do. But once you get it matching and everything fits with the footfall, we call it in the pocket. And then it looks, because the rhythm's going with the feet, it can look more kind of expressive. But then of course we have the build. So if your medium isn't really there yet, it doesn't matter. The mediums come later. There's all the lateral work you've got to do at elementary as well. But if the medium isn't there yet, we certainly would have the chorus, for example, across the diagonal where you do the medium, or down the long side, or wherever you put it. So it gives the perception of more medium than there may be. And sometimes I know when a medium is being attempted on the videos that are sent to me, simply because the riding gets more frantic. So I can tell what's going on. But it's fitting the music to make sure that it works with the horse. And there's a musical interpretation mark. It's not just about how good your music is, or how well it fits your horse. The musical interpretation mark, which is at elementary, 4 times, it's got a coefficient of 4, which is a lot of points. That's 40 points right there. The second half of it is what people forget: music and interpretation. So you've got to ride the music back, interpret the music with your movements, which, as you said correctly, means if you've got to change it on the fly because the surface is riding differently, or he's more forward on the day or whatever, then you have to do that. But as for choosing what styles of music, I'd have to see the horse.
Okay. So how do you then go about picking the style for that horse? So what's the process? Do you have a conversation with the owner? Because if they've got to really like it, that type of music might really fit that horse, but the owner goes, oh God, no, please don't give me that. Like, I've got a little bit of that. Like, I can't do Elvis. Don't ever. I just can't do it. If I have to listen to that, I'd rather scrape my nails down a blackboard, but it might really suit my horse, for instance. So how do you go about having that conversation to make sure that combination is right?
Well, that's the first stop. So there's 2 ways that we work at the moment. We have the online orders. If you do an online order, then you will send a video in, and then Mrs. Equidance will call you to talk about the music. And if you have a clinic, of course, we choose the music on the day. I film the floor plan with you. We may maybe tweak a little bit, and then we pick the music on the day, which is quite cool. But when either of us talk to you, the first thing we will say is, what don't you want? Because it's much easier to whittle down to something that suits everybody by saying, what do you not want? Because we definitely don't want that. There'd never be an instance where I say, no, you have to have something like that, because we can always find something that you'll like that will go with the horse and the test. And of course, don't forget, all the pieces that go into a freestyle arrangement have to actually make sense together. So they have to be similar in style and genre. Don't have to be exactly the same, but they have to be similar in style and genre. So once you've found one piece of music, maybe for the canter, then it's much easier to go, right, we're on this style now, so let's have a look and explore some of the boundaries of this style and other things that you like. It might be just an artist that they love, you know, or it might be a style of music like epic or hip hop or whatever. But we can then, once we've got a style, we can work from that style and get together the rest of it and put it together quite easily, really. But what will happen is Kelly will send through an online virtual order, which is great because you've got plenty of time to think about it. Kelly will send ideas as links. And then you listen to them, and she'll get back to you and say, well, yeah, I love that, not sure about that. Have you got any other ideas for the walk? It's like, yes, no problems. We've got this, this, and this. And then it doesn't take long before we've got the minimum of 3 tracks that we need, which would be your walk and your canter and your trot, of course. If you've got a Grand Prix horse, then you need to think about Piaffe and Passage as well. And if you want to have a different piece of music for your intro, you can also have that. And it can be totally nothing to do with the rest of the music, because you don't get marked. For your intro music, it can be like your designer label, or this is me moment.
I love that, the this is me moment. And I think actually the intro music is possibly sometimes the most important bit, because if we're going to talk about, you know, the psychology of it and things, it was interesting, just going back to a point earlier, and then I'll come back to the intro music. But when you were saying about in a film, my husband and I, we're watching Designated Survivor at the moment on Netflix. Right. And there's definitely some boring episodes, and then there's some fairly interesting ones. And we sit there and they're talking about something and the music, and we're going, oh, this is going to be a sad bit coming up. We can tell, here comes the music's telling us, or oh, this is going to be a really interesting conversation, or he's the bad guy because the music's telling us he's going to be the bad guy. And it kind of gives you the clue, like you said, what is coming. And I think I've certainly sat and written for enough judges all the way up to Grand Prix for the freestyle. Yeah. And they've gone, was that supposed to be a medium? Was that supposed to be an extension? Or I don't know if it was. Well, we'll put a mark down just in case it was, and then we'll see what comes back up later. But of course, if in your music you can be going, ta-da, here it comes, it's really obvious, then they'll be like, oh, I think that was supposed to be a medium because the music was telling me that that's okay. So we can help the judges as well, can't we? Really, really hard job judging freestyle. The higher the level, the harder it gets, because not only are you looking all the time, because you don't know where things are happening. Well, it's not strictly true at Grand Prix now. FEI, you have to hand in your tests in advance. It's not so that you have to ride it exactly the same, just so the referee know where things are going to be to make the judging fairer. But you've got to look out for a certain set of movements, then you've got to mark those movements, and then they may reattempt. For example, if you did a line of 2-time tempi changes at Grand Prix, and then it didn't quite work, then you can fit it into a joker line later on, and then they've got to mark it again, so you get the best average. So there's all sorts of crazy things you've got to do judging freestyle. So yes, we can help them with the music, but also with symmetry. So the floor plan design is uber important. Again, you get marked on inventiveness, and from a medium upwards, you get a degree of difficulty too. So the floor plan you can be really creative with, but keeping symmetry with the floor plan and the music really helps the judges. So say for an example from an elementary, you maybe come in at trot, and you do your circle, then you do a line and some shoulder in, and then some leg yields, and then you do exactly the same on the other rein, on the opposite side of the arena. So they know kind of what's coming up, and we can help cue that with the music. Interesting you say about the film and TV music, those are actually called cues. So when you're working on a TV or film, you have a whole list of cues, and that cue is the cue for the music to come in, and it's the
yeah, it cues the emotion, doesn't it, every time?
So if we're going for, basic level of music, is it's got to fit your horse, it's got to fit the football, it's got to fit your full plan, great. Then we can go up into much higher nuances and things, and we can start playing with the psychology then as well, with cues of needs to be happening now, it cues the rider, it cues the judge. I had a lovely little bit. So I did have a little bit of because you are allowed a few words as long as they don't overtake. I mean, this is a real funny ground, isn't it? But I had...
Yeah, you are actually allowed. You are allowed to have vocals in it. I mean, the voice is the best instrument in the world, so why not use it a little bit? But I think the rule of thumb is, and I don't think all the judges, no, not all the judges agree on this. They have different opinions, which is unfortunate because we need to have some parity, really. The ruling is that you can have singing in a piece as long as it doesn't distract from the dressage. So as long as it's not like Celine Dion banging on her chest and singing My Heart Will Go On, or some rapper talking about how they're going to pop someone in LA, then it's, I don't see the problem with it, especially to indicate the chorus. There's one piece that I did, it was all Katy Perry music, and I do this quite often. We get the backing track and I get the vocal stems. So it's all separate, and I do a remix. So I use little bits of the vocal and put like distortion on it, some delays and some effects. So it's kind of there swimming away in the background. But you've got to remember, a lot of contemporary music, really, if you take the vocal out, you've taken the melody out. So what have you got left? Just backbeat, which is just monotonous. It's the same thing going round and round again. I think so many artists only use one chord these days throughout an entire song, and the melody just changes over the top of it. So you need something in there. So that you can use vocals subtly, but I wouldn't use it all the way through because I think they'll just say it's too much. We use quite a few vocals, and I constantly get feedback from my clients. It's really important to know how things are being judged, and we haven't had any negative feedback about the vocals we've been using, so I think maybe it's being enjoyed. But you can replace the melody. Of course, you can put in a violin or a cello. There's lots of versions by solo musicians that you can use, which can be quite nice, but you may have an aversion to the violin like some people do. But yeah, you can use some vocals.
I think the interesting one though is when you can tell someone's used a vocal track because they really like it, and then they've gone and found the karaoke version. Which is stripped to the vocal track because you're meant to sing it, and you you go, well, I can tell what this is meant to be, but you've done it yourself, haven't you?
yeah, absolutely. Yeah, I've heard some really dodgy ones, and you get some really dodgy ones online. Some people, just because it's nice to have a violin, for example, played over a piece of music doesn't mean you should do it and then publish it. It's just terrible playing.
Okay, so let's come back to the intro music because that was we got digressed, but it's really good to hear kind of your perspective and other people's perspectives on things. So the intro music, if we're going to talk about psychology here, we have something called an unconscious bias, which is where in the unconscious part of our brain we are looking for certain things. They're also called filters. It's more useful to kind of think of it as a filter, which is your brain is always filtering things out, and if you set that filter to a certain point, it is like when you get a new car and then suddenly everyone's got that car because your filter is set. So that's your unconscious bias, is to notice that car everywhere. So you can play about with the psychology of this with judges. And I always say this to people, like when you're going around the outside and the judge might be writing their notes and things, they're still half aware of you. Don't go doing something really awful in front of them at that point in time, because they'll clock it, they'll see it. And although they're not allowed to mark on it, what happens is you set their unconscious bias. So you can do the same with your intro music, can't you? You can set it to the, we're here, you need to watch us, or this is going to be really good fun, or look how beautiful my horse is, or aren't we stylish? Whatever mood you want to set, that intro can be so important. How do you play about with that?
Yeah, so we always give people the option. Obviously, it's nice if you're starting in trot in your test, for example, you come in, you hold to X just for the sake of it, and then you start in trot. It's quite nice to come into the same piece of music if you're coming in at trot and have a nice boom on the halt and then continue in trot with that piece of music. But some things like, let's think, I've done some wonderful sort of like film arrangements for younger riders on ponies. And it's always nice to have some spoken word in there in the gaps. So we often have like a quote from a film or me or Kelly record, what they want to be said. There was one lovely little rider and she wanted positive positive kind of well-being phrases. I can't remember what they were, but it was really nice. You can be the best you can be, and stuff like that. And one of those was in the first halt. And you just look at this little girl riding in with this pony with this positive affirmation of a statement. And it's just great. It sets it up beautifully. Or you can just have a bit of fun, like we did a James Bond one. That's one of the ones that has been done a lot, but not so much recently. And came into the James Bond theme, it didn't fit the footfall, but it doesn't matter. You're setting it up for a beautiful Bond arrangement. And then the kind of like muffled gun goes off on the halt. And then it goes, hello, sir. Yes, what can I get you? And he goes, a martini, shaken, not stirred. Or no, was it the name's Bond, James Bond? And I put like a delay and reverb on it, so it's really dramatic. So yeah, you can really set them up. Don't be scared to use novelty elements, things like quotes from films. Or we had that's all, folks, from the cartoons. I've had that. That worked really well. That went to the Nationals with BRC, actually, that lovely Looney Tunes arrangement. So yeah, novelty elements are good. And by novelty elements, I don't mean strapping dragon's wings to your horses and coming into How to Train Your Dragon or anything like that. But within the music, you can be playful. You can have some fun if that's how you want to play it. Some people want just to be a lot more serious about it and do more thoughtful and elegant and epic music. But some people just want to have some fun. So you can put those quotes in and set up the intro really well.
Cool. Okay, so we've had a question come in, actually, which is, this is really lovely. Have you ever had horses that don't respond positively to certain types of music?
Now this is a question. Right, I'm gonna bear my all on this one. So and probably open myself up for some criticism. I believe that horses sometimes, like humans, are sensitive to certain frequencies. More than others. So, some people can't stand the feeling of cotton wool if you crunch it in your hands. Some people can't stand fingers down a chalkboard. There's all sorts of different things. My 9-year-old son has got a real aversion to paper being rubbed together. So that's his, So I think horses, as sentient beings too, I think they have certain frequencies which they're not so happy about. And I think that certain systems can set them off if the frequencies are wrong. If we set up a sound system in an arena, which we do that quite a bit, and we sell systems as well, I equalize it with some of the frequencies dip down a little bit, and these have been the frequencies that we found horses are really sensitive to, and that's between 1 and 2 kilohertz, which is kind of high mid-range kind of crunchy sounds, and the ultra high frequencies. So we can get rid of those, and they seem to be a lot happier. People have told me that their horses like certain sorts of music over other sorts of music. I'm not convinced. I'm sorry, folks, I'm not convinced, because, watching horses, I watch an awful lot of horses, rides music and clinics and all sorts. I'm not convinced. I think it might be that you're loving it so much, therefore you're getting into your riding a little bit more. Maybe. I'm happy to be proved wrong. Maybe I should have asked Dr. David Marlin about this the other day when I interviewed him. But yeah, I think horses generally just enjoy riding with the music. That seems to be a common thread. But I've had people say to me, I played this one particular song and my horse couldn't stand it. And I'm like, I'm not sure. I've not come across that in my professional capacity.
I think in my experience, which is nowhere near your professional capacity at all, but from the experience that I've had, I think horses are picking up on the vibration when you've got speakers and things like that. And I think I don't know whether it's that they like that type of music or not, but I think certainly a certain rhythm they might settle to maybe a bit more because it's more kind of them, or it might rush them a bit or whatever. I mean, I know they don't have to ride to that rhythm, but I think there's probably some psychology that goes on behind that of, when you're rushing a horse up, it's rhythm. It maybe gets a bit more anxious about it. I think definitely I have seen horses respond not very well to very screechy violin or very screechy guitar or something, because it's not a nice sound potentially. I think you're right that the cracky noises, probably, if we think about it from a horse psychology perspective, they've got to be able to spot a predator very easily, and a sort of maybe a crack of a bush or that kind of noise might put them on edge a bit more. So I think, you're right. I totally agree with you from a perspective of horse and human. You know,
Yeah.
yes, okay, humans can like a certain type of music or not, but there'll be a reason why it'll resonate with them or something, or there'll be some kind of reason as to why. And I'm not quite sure. I think you're right. It's not as deep as that, maybe with a horse, but
sharp sounds. We'd never put like sharp, startling sounds into freestyle. You might get a nice boom, but it's always muffled. It's not like bang. It's like, you know. So it's not like a near and present danger. And a horse is a flight animal, as you just said. So we've got to make sure we're not going to do anything that's going to spook. And sometimes I even filter and frequency out certain parts of the music. You said about the violins. I'm always taking that 1 to 2 kilohertz down a little bit to hollow out the violin sound, because I have found that those frequencies seem to be the thing that if anything's going to cause a problem, it'll be that around those frequencies. However, acoustic ears, here's an interesting point. So I've just got Kelly to get me 2 different pairs and designs of what they call acoustic ears. I don't know why they call them acoustic ears, because acoustic is about sound and resonance. But these ears, they're supposed to go over the horse's ears, you know, like with their hat, and they're supposed to block out sound and frequency. Now, I'm going to do an experiment with it because I want to know whether it's one of those things like magnetic boots or not. Does it actually work, you know? So I, from an initial thing, putting it on the horse, it doesn't seal all the way around the ear at all. And you've just got kind of crochet work. So I don't think it's going to make actually that much difference. If anything, it could cause a different set of frequency resonances within the cone that's going over the ear that could confuse the horse even more than not having them on. I think they might be a bit of a placebo.
Hey, the thing with the placebo though is if the rider thinks the horse is going better, the rider's going to ride better. You know, like this is
you're absolutely placebo, right. Of course, you know, where do we go from there?
Yeah, exactly. I think it's interesting though. I'm not sure what the current standing is. It because they were banned, then they weren't, then they were. As to whether you're allowed to use them or not now.
I wouldn't be able to tell you. I'm not really up on that. So the rule book.
I think you can use the ears, but not plugs. I think at the moment.
Right. Yes. I think plugs would be a bit cruel though. You know, the horse is going to think, what have I got in my ears the whole time? It's going to be on its toes. So I wouldn't go that far with the horse anyway.
That's why people use them. But okay. So
yeah, like putting bandages on, isn't it? It's like, hey, here I am.
It's like all sorts of things some people do. Absolutely. And you know, hey, look, who are we to criticize sometimes when you don't know what's driving people? But
I'm not getting into the training, the whole training thing.
No, let's not. Neither of us are experts in that. So when it comes to Equidance, you say you're quiet at the moment. That really surprises me because, I mean, I know the competitions and things aren't going on, but, you know, I was thinking the other day, right, do you know what? I'm getting a bit bored. I need some stuff to go and do. Actually, now would be a perfect time to start thinking about my music, start thinking about what I want to do with it this year, whether or not I'm going to have competitions or not. It doesn't matter. Once you've got a piece of music, you've got your bit of music. It doesn't expire. You can use it for as long as you like. You can.
Yeah, there is. So one of the things that we've had a lot of people phone us up or get in touch with me and say is, I need music, but I'm training so much at the moment. And we're training, say, for example, up to advanced medium. I'm training the changes. His medium paces are coming on, or her medium paces are coming on. And the trot will change tempo. I mean, I've watched it with Dandy, our Spanish cob. His trot, as the training has got more intense and he's working up to advanced medium now, has got considerably slower. I mean, we're talking from 175 BPM down to about 143. So it's a huge change because he's stronger and he's able to collect and lower his tempo and look really quite nice with it, actually. It's quite surprised. But as you train through, if you have got your music, say, for example, in November and you haven't been able to go out and do any competitions, but you've been training a lot with your horse, then you may well find that your trot isn't going to fit, or you may well find that you want to go up a gear and move up a level, so you need a new music anyway. So I think people are holding off until they know when the competitions are so that they can gauge when to get their music done. And a lot of people are procrastinating, of course, but also you'll be able to tell me more about this. I know that I've felt it. My creativity has hit the floor, especially on this second lockdown, because of just feeling depressed, really, and claustrophobic. And every time I do a freestyle, I mean, I get into it, but to try and get into it is getting really hard. You know, I'm really looking forward to getting back out and meeting my clients and being on clinics and stroking the horses, you know, and meeting all these wonderful horses. And it just gets you down. So I think a lot of people are down as well. It's one of the reasons we do our show on Friday nights, is to cheer people up. at least once a week and give them something to smile and have fun with. And I've had a lot of feedback from clients to say that they're feeling really low at these times. So when they're feeling low, it's not the time they want to be creative with a floor plan. And, you know they want to do it. They just haven't got the get up and go to make it happen at the moment, I think, a lot of people.
Yeah, that makes total sense. Actually, I hadn't really thought about it that way, and that's very true. Actually, isn't it? That you know, at the moment, the one thing we are probably doing a lot of is training. So we can come further, and so that makes me think. Then, how long does it take for you to put together a piece of music and things? Because we know it's going to happen. Sport is going to start resuming. We're going to start finding out when qualifiers and things are going on. People are going to start going back into it, and then people are going to go, "Oh, I need my music now." So, you know, how long do people need to kind of have in their head and plan if that's what they want to be doing?
So we offer two levels of service for that. If you don't mind me talking shop, because I can explain it better this way. We do the standard waiting list is normally 6 weeks. Now that's because from when you've ordered it and put your video in, and then you've got to choose the music with Kelly. Kelly's also doing a PhD, and we've got 3 kids. So, you know, this is at the moment it's not a very well-oiled machine at home. You'll always have it within that 6 weeks. At the moment, it may even be just a couple to fit around everything else we're doing. But there's also a fast track service, and the fast track service guarantees it within 10 working days of when we receive the video. So a lot of people are kind of last minute, especially my upper level riders, you know, oh, I've got an international in 2 weeks, I need some music. So it's like, we've got the fast track for that, which is a few quid extra, but it guarantees you get your music on time. And what it buys you is overtime. So I'll work into the night or I'll work on my one day off, which is usually a Sunday. I don't really get days off. You know, it's like being self-employed. But yeah, so that's the sort of timescale. And yes, we are a bit concerned that everyone's going to come in at the same time wanting music. We kind of know it's going to happen. So what I've done is I've trained up, he used to be my sound engineer, a guy called Tarrant. I've been doing some intense online training with him in dressage so that I've got someone who can manage the files, get things in place for me so that I can edit them a lot more efficiently. So we can try and get everyone's done in the time they need it done. But I know it's going to be a busy time. So if anyone's listening and wants their music, get in now and you'll get it in a couple of weeks. But in a couple of weeks' time, it may be 2 months. That's who knows? I mean, if we get 60 orders come in all at once, which is a possibility, it's happened before, then it's kind of whoa.
And I think we all know that this is going to come in many ways, you know, because they're so restrictive right now that as soon as they start allowing things to open back up again, and we've got an idea of dates and we've got an idea of things going on, that's going to happen to a lot of people, and it's being ready and geared up to do that. So yeah. Cool.
Yeah, let's hope so. Anyway, I mean, what we've done is my other skill set is production, so audio visual production. So I'm a sucker for camera. I'm a proper camera geek. I mean, I've got a vintage lens just sat here randomly. So we film, and I've got a lovely drone that I'm licensed to fly, and we've got little different rigs and different Osmo sort of all the gear and all the ideas. That's what we call it. So we've been doing some videoing for a stud and some stallions. Sort of like we call them stallion Tinder profiles, and just up in the game really of making Equestrianism look absolutely awesome, because we've noticed a lot of the sort of content created across the channel in Europe is really slick and looks beautiful, but I think a lot of the content in the UK just seems to be a that'll do sort of thing, or made by themselves. So we've put together a service for people who want something really spectacular, whether it's an advert for their instruction yard, or whether it's an advert for an event or a corporate video, whatever. We've got a really slick thing going with equestrian.media now, well worth a look at if you're interested in that sort of thing. And again, like with our philosophy, making it affordable, not charging through the nose, making it affordable. And hopefully that's the same with Equidance, that we make it as affordable as possible so everyone can have a go.
I love that. Absolutely. And you know, so much more now is online, and it does need to look a bit more slick nowadays, like you say, depending on what you're doing, because people are now used to that level, aren't they? You know, look at YouTube now compared to what it used to be. Like, is getting really quite professional now. You know, Facebook, you can get away with things a little bit more, Instagram maybe, but really if you want to stand out now as a business, you need to be looking a bit more slick, don't you?
Yeah, especially in the horse business. I mean, there was a story that I had a meeting with a chap yesterday, a really lovely guy, and he's very high up in equestrian retail, very high up, and I didn't know that at the time actually. But he was talking about a breeder in the Middle East from Doha, who come over. He really wanted to buy this horse in the UK, and he came over. And was supposed to be met at the airport by someone from the yard, and wasn't. So he got a taxi to the yard, and no one was there. And so the groom showed him this horse, and it wasn't even like platted up or anything. And then the owner turned up and said, "Oh, I've only got 5 minutes," and that was it. And I think, you know, you're not going to sell horses. That guy could have written a check for £2 million for that horse there and then. But there doesn't seem to be that attention to detail and that passion for making them look incredible. So we're on a bit of a mission to up the look of the whole British breeding scene, really, which has been great because I've got to know them over the last couple of weeks really well, because we've been streaming their online stallion show, and we've been helping some of the owners of the stallions to make their horses look wonderful, which has been absolutely a revelation. I loved it, really enjoyed it.
And what is it that you love about doing that then? What really ignites your fire? And
have you seen some of these stallions?
Wow.
They're gorgeous. Honestly, they're gorgeous. So I think I told you just before this, I was down on Staunton Sands in North Devon with my drone, filming a beautiful ginger stallion with the thickest neck galloping down the beach, and also some slow-mo of him sort of like trotting through the water on the edge of the sea. It was just fabulous. These beasts are incredible. I love meeting horses, as you're probably well aware now. They're all so different, but the stallions, they've got this certain presence about them, a certain look in their eyes, and yeah, I really enjoy working with stallions. It's great.
Awesome. So lots going on at the moment then, not your normal stuff, but other things that you're looking at diversifying, and some real passions there as well.
Yeah, well, I mean, Kelly's the one full of ideas. She's just mad for ideas all the time. Mrs. Equidance, for those who know her, will understand what I'm saying here, but she's non-stop. She's literally constantly coming up with ideas. So we ended up over Christmas printing mugs. This is one of the mugs that I printed. It's got worms all over it, but just novelty mugs. Bought a little sub-dye printing press and do those. And then she started a clothing company randomly just before Christmas, called Equine, which literally are the best hoodies in the world, without doubt. So she's got that on the go as well. And there's always things, you know, we're just grafters. We just make things happen. And when you've got a mortgage to pay and kids to feed and, you know, everything to stay on top of, then you can't just sit around. Whatever you're feeling like, you've just got to get up and crack on.
Okay, so my final question then is, what is it that gets you up in the mornings doing that?
Matilda. I've got a three-nager. My 3-year-old daughter gets me up in the morning. No, I've got so much to do. There's so many deadlines. Today I've got a deadline to edit a video, a very important video for a stud down in Devon. And then I also have music to arrange for Sophie Christensen, potentially for the Olympics, that she needs by the end of the week as well. So deadlines, I've always got deadlines. I've got a list of things that need doing all the time. So I just get up, I have a real coffee, I cook breakfast for everyone. I really enjoy having a cooked breakfast. And then I get into the studio, I make it look as lovely as possible, and just get on with my work.
Awesome. Well, thank you so much. I think we've learned so much about what you do, your passions. Can't wait to meet Mrs. Equidance at some point. Might do an interview with her as well.
Oh, do. She's fabulous. Absolutely fabulous. Her PhD is really interesting in thermal imaging, so she can tell you a lot. She's pretty much the authority on thermal imaging in the UK now. Wow.
Amazing. Fantastic. Yeah. Gosh, she really has got a lot of strings to that bow, hasn't she?
Yeah, she's one of those super intelligent people, you know, really. I have to watch myself. She's so switched on.
Cool. Well, thank you so much, Tony. If people want to get hold of you for any of the things that you do, what's the best way for them to do that?
So best channel to contact us is at Equidance. You can get to us through the website behind me here, www.equidance.co.uk. There's a contact me section. Facebook, we're always on Facebook. So that's our biggest marketing stream, really, is Facebook. So you can contact me via Equidance on Facebook, which is huge now. It's got over 10,000 followers. So it's easy to find. Or message me directly, Tony Hobden. It's just my face on the profile picture. But we love chatting. Just phone me. My number's on there. Just give me a ring anytime. Yeah, we love meeting people.
Fab, thank you very much. You'll probably be inundated now. And fingers crossed we can get back to a bit competing, a bit dancing with our horses again, get some of that going, and really look forward to seeing gorgeous videos of stallions.
Oh, yeah, let's hope so. Let's hope Lulu's will take it on. I've got the, what is it, next week it's the dressage stallions, so my favourites. So we'll see what comes along.
Well, thank you so much, Tony. It's been an absolute pleasure. It's great to just have your energy around as well. And hopefully anyone listening back onto this from the podcast as well will really have enjoyed hearing all about what you do. So thank you so much.
Thank you. Lovely to meet you.
Angie, bye.
Bye.